Right, so we're just out of the Trump presser, and it was such a fascinating Q&A session between President Trump, Prime Minister Starmer. It's one of my top lines, the most interesting things that were said. Look, the Prime Minister clear there that he will recognise Palestine as a state. The President clear that he disagrees with Starmer on that, and he said it's one area that they don't see eye to eye. The Prime Minister pressed about Netanyahu. Why won't he put more pressure on Israel? He reverted back to Hamas having to release the hostages, but there could be more moving on that in the coming days. What I asked him about was something that struck me in his remarks. He said, actually, President Putin has let me down. And so I asked him, was it a mistake to invite him to Alaska for those bilateral talks? He said, no, it was not. And then I asked him about whether he wanted to squeeze Putin, impose sanctions, scare him a bit. And what President Trump reverted back to is the need to drive down the price of Russian oil. And what he's doing is he's pressing NATO members to stop buying Russian oil, but he would not be drawn on the idea of US sanctions on Russia, an additional package, which is what the Europeans want. The second thing that really struck me was what the President said about immigration. He simply said, if you don't resolve the problems at your border, you will destroy your country. He talked about bringing the military in, clearly telling the Prime Minister you need to take a very hard line, as he has in the US. So that was interesting. And then finally, the big elephant in the room, we went through the entire press event without anyone asking, so it was left to me to do it. What on earth did President Trump make of the sacking of the UK ambassador to the US a week out from this state visit? Lord Mandelson had been in the Oval Office with President Trump, but days ago he did not want to answer the question. This is what he said.
I don't know him, actually. I had heard that, and I think maybe the Prime Minister would be better speaking of that. That was a choice that he made, and I don't know. What is your answer to that?
I think that went as smoothly as number 10 could have hoped for, but overall it was a moment, I think, where those two leaders can walk away thinking business has been done and there's been no blow-ups at all.